Hello, welcome to Skill Check, the positive gaming podcast from YMCA Exeter. My name is Andy,
And my name is Becky.
and it's still a little bit kind of building worksy around here.
There's a bit of painting going on again.
There's lots of painting.
There's
It kind of smells a bit.
it kind of
painty.
smells a bit funky.
It's all right.
It will smell
All right,
better.
one of us might be more okay with it than the
Yeah,
other.
you've been down in the basement for a long time. I work upstairs normally. And my room is lighter and more spacious.
That sounds very kind of upstairs, downstairs.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Kind of Downton Abbey type world.
I am in the posh world of the upstairs people. And he lives in the basement.
Well, I'm in a world that helps things actually work.
Yeah, that's true. It's like the mainframe. Like this is where it's like the stuff goes on.
Oh, I'm working on it. I want more kids
Yeah.
down here.
What have we got coming up in the podcast today, Andy? We should move on.
We should. We have we've got the game of the week.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about a game that's coming to PS5.
Yeah.
We are looking at the question about should Christians be gaming?
Yeah. Interesting question.
Yeah. And but before that, we have gaming news. And now, gaming news.
Gaming news.
What have you got for us this week?
Our first piece of gaming news is the BAFTA Game Awards nominations were announced this week, with Baldur's Gate 3 leading the way by picking up a total of 10 nominations.
Wait, what?
10 nominations.
That's fair.
Sony's hit sequel Spider-Man 2 received 9 nods, closely followed by Alan Wake 2 with 8. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Star Wars Jedi Survivor had 6 nominations each. This year will be the 20th anniversary of the awards and will be held on the 11th of April. Last year's gaming sales topped £4.7 billion in the UK, more than double that of the music industry, according to the Digital Entertainment and Retail Association. The best game nominations also include Super Mario Bros. Wonder and surprise hit Dave the Diver.
I've got to admit, Dave the Diver is not one I've played.
It sounds
Or
good
really
though.
looked at.
I mean, we should dig into this. Is it? I didn't even look at it up. I know we've obviously seen Super Mario Bros.
I mean,
Wonder,
what is that?
But now I want to know what Dave the Diver is.
Quickly look that
I'm gonna Google Dave the Diver.
Because all I managed to find out very quickly yesterday was multitasking and being very operate with other things as well, is that it's something about diving. And that's not exactly the most insightful insight.
According to Wikipedia, it is a video game that combines action, adventure, and management gameplay styles to explore deep space environments to gather ingredients for a sushi restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. It's quite like, it looks quite old. Like the pictures make it look quite old, but obviously it was only released this year. But it's a bit more like I can show you the pictures. Like it looks a bit like
Oh, okay.
pixely.
I know that is a art form.
Yeah. Yeah, one of us will have to play it and then tell you what it is like. That'll be interesting. Dave the Diver. That'll be an Andy's Game of the Week at some point, I'm sure.
I mean, everything else, yeah, absolutely fair enough.
Yeah.
You know, Baldur's Gate 3. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I feel had a rubbish launch.
Okay. It was one of those
I'm
ones.
surprised there's not been more talk about it around awards and things like that.
It was one of those ones that was really glitchy. Is that right?
It was terribly glitchy.
Yeah, I remember us talking about how
I
glitchy
may
it
have
was.
cried about it on the
Yeah.
podcast about 5 times.
Yeah. So it's interesting that it's picking up awards.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good game.
It's
Just
just
story-wise,
Yeah.
amazing.
It was just very glitchy to start.
Yeah. And Star Wars, Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
It's a good one.
It's a Mario
I've not played it yet. I got it for Christmas. I haven't played it yet.
It's a Mario game. It's nice. It's fun. It's yeah.
I haven't played it yet because I got distracted by Pikmin, and I've almost finished Pikmin. I've got one level left.
Hurry up and then play.
And then Super Mario Wonder.
Mario Wonder.
Right. The next piece of gaming news is the next Dungeons and Dragons video game has been revealed. Developer Gameloft has announced that it's developing several new games, including a new survival game, live sim, and an action RPG hybrid game based on Dungeons and Dragons. The new game will be set in the same world as Baldur's Gate 3. The upcoming project is said to have unique cooperative gameplay and takes players on an adventure where the rich lore of legendary franchises meet real-time survival in a unique campaign of resilience, camaraderie, and danger at nearly every turn. Sounds really dramatic. The current unnamed project appears in the early stages of development, but the studio did share what looks like concept art, which features 3 different characters at a camp, looking at a far-off castle and a dragon in a high fantasy setting.
I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 is bigger than big.
Yeah.
Not massive surprise that someone's doing another game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I didn't realise that Baldur's Gate was based on Dungeons and Dragons, and then I had to Google it. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's good.
It's my little dip into the D&D world.
Yeah.
When I get a chance. So my laptop hasn't exactly been playing nicely recently. I think I might have overdone it on the install button, perhaps, and just installed far too. It just needs a bit of a sprinkling.
Yeah.
So last time, I play a few games on the laptop because I can take it away from the rest of the family. It's not exactly kid appropriate.
Yeah.
And yeah, last time it kind of struggled a little bit whereas it did before. So that's kind of the reason why I've not been playing it as much as I would like to.
Yeah.
And that's the important bit. It's a very good game.
Okay.
And I understand why everyone is, yeah.
Andy will get back on it and then I'll review it. Our final piece of gaming news is the 12 finalists for the World Video Game Hall of Fame this year, drawn from 4 different decades of gaming. Fans are now being invited to vote online for their favourite, and voting is open till the 21st of March. The list of games includes Asteroids, which debuted in 1979, and Guitar Hero, which arrived in 2005. The games are nominated alongside some games from the 1980s and the 1990s. The Hall of Fame recognises games for their longevity, geographical reach, and influence on video game design and pop culture. The 3 games that received the most public votes will form a player choice ballot to be counted with other ballots submitted by members of a committee of journalists and scholars with video game expertise. The top vote will get inducted into the Hall of Fame on May the 9th. It's exciting. I mean, it's great. I didn't even know this existed. Okay. And then I was like, this is a Hall of Fame. It's a bit like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they get inducted.
But it's not just for this year.
No, so it's like all time.
Oh, blimey.
So it's like all time games. It doesn't necessarily need to be like the game from this year that was the best. It can be like they're basically like picking historical games that like loads of people have played over the years. So like obviously Asteroids. Do you remember playing Asteroids? Yeah, little ship on the screen shooting asteroids.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's that bit about influence on video game design and pop culture.
Yeah,
I think will be the important thing to look out for.
Yeah,
in that, I mean, Space Invaders.
Yes.
Tetris.
Yeah, I didn't check what was already in the Hall of Fame, so I wonder if some of those might be in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, you've got to have Mario Bros and Sonic's in there, right?
Yeah.
Please bear with us.
We're just googling.
Maybe listen to some
World Video Game Hall of Fame
in the background.
I've got no internet.
I'm not going to edit.
Died.
Well, in that case,
no internet.
No. It's just your laptop. It's fine.
It's back again now. Here we go. Video games become eligible for icon status. Oh, here we go. Games in the Hall of Fame include Pac-Man, Super Mario Brothers is in there, Tetris, World of Warcraft, The Legend of Zelda's in there, Sonic, Space Invaders is already in there as well. Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong, obviously.
Yeah. Halo, Pokemon, Final Fantasy, Tomb Raider.
Well, what is there to add?
Yeah.
Sounds like it's all there. Maybe Pong.
It's like the original video game.
Yeah. basically playing tennis.
The Last of Us is in there as well.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah, Wii Sports is in there. It's really good. It's a really random collection of different video games from like different.
It's a list of games that you should be playing.
Yeah.
If you've not played these games, you should just go away and play them.
Yeah. Go Google World Video Game Hall of Fame and then find the list and you can just play them.
Should Christians be gaming? That's a light subject, isn't it?
It's an interesting one. For those of you who are watching, we are both Christians.
Yeah.
The YMCA Enecta is a Christian organisation. Most of the staff that work directly with young people are Christians.
Yeah.
In fact, all of the staff that work directly with young people are Christians. And so that's the theology behind the YMCA Enecta, and that is why we feel like we should talk about this, because we're Christians and we both game. So we're kind of leaning towards that.
Yes, but there's this conversation.
Yeah.
It's kind of what led us here, you know, and I'm very aware that if you're watching on YouTube, you're probably watching me being a little bit kind of my body language kind of closing in a little bit kind of because as a human being that I've been programmed to be, I generally don't like sitting on one side of the fence.
Yeah.
I like trying to please both sides of the fence, and this is a gaming podcast. Our bias is going to show.
Yeah.
So what led us here?
Well, so it actually stems from a conversation I had with someone that about like we had like a stall about gaming at one of our like a service that we did a while ago. She kind of approached us and went, why should Christians be gaming? I think it's not right that Christians game. I think like it's really bad for young people's mental health. I think it's kind of, she kind of went on for a bit about like how bad she thought it was and like whether like Christians should be, and she kept asking like why should we be involved in gaming.
It was quite a conversation that kind of stayed with you.
Yeah. And it was she asked me about like why should like why is it a good thing, and I was like, well, I kind of came away from it thinking I wanted to ask the question, and like I would say like we always try and talk about the positives of gaming, and actually we know that it's actually really beneficial for young people's mental health. It's not detrimental. Yes, there are some things around like should Christians be playing first-person shooters, which is an interesting question, which I'll pitch to you later because you're the one that plays the first-person shooters, and what kind of games you like Christians are playing and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to sort of take that up. But for me, I kind of go along that like we work with young people, that we're a young person's organisation, and young people are in these spaces, and like all of the youth work training that I've done a lot of youth work training, all of the youth work training that I've had just talks about how we meet young people where they're at.
Yeah.
And we don't try and bring them into our space. We try and go into their space and be in their space and help them navigate their spaces. And actually young people are gaming. Young people are, and if we're not in those spaces, we're not serving them in the right way, we're not helping them in the right way. I think it's really bad to just suggest that young people should get out of those spaces and come into our space, whereas actually we need to go into their space and be with them and talk about them and talk them through the journey that they're going through, rather than like just saying, oh, come into my space because my space is great. That's not really what a youth worker does. That's not really what any of the staff here at the Y are trained to do. I think that was the biggest thing that I kind of took away from it, was from that conversation I had, was that actually as a Christian I'm called to be in spaces like that. Like Jesus did it. Yeah. Jesus went into other people's spaces and brought them in, like, and was in their space with them. So I think it's just following Jesus' example, I would say. So
yeah, and I guess on that note, I think if we were to look at Jesus and almost ask the question, would Jesus game? At the end of the day, I don't know. No one really knows.
No one knows.
Because video games weren't there at the time.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say if Jesus would be a video gamer. But if we were to look at what we know of Jesus, we know that he ate meals with people. He ate meals with people that other people wouldn't.
Yeah.
We know that he went to parties. And there are at least two kind of massive ways of the time when people would connect with each other.
Yeah.
I think it can be safely assumed that Jesus probably did the kind of leisure activities at the time as well. So, kind of sports, maybe kind of riddles, proverbs, all that. I'm not an expert in that culture of the time, but I think it can be assumed that Jesus was a human being, that connected with people. So from that, I would assume that he would at least use video games to connect with people now. I mean, especially if you look at, I knew I should have got the percentages that we spoke of last week.
Oh, yeah.
But if you look at, I think it's something like 56% of the world or something mad like that call themselves a gamer.
Yeah.
And I don't think Jesus would separate himself from that at all. I think he would use that, at the very least, he would use that as a tool to connect with people. Welcome, and thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus went into tax collectors' houses. He didn't ever say to people, come. Well, he did come with me, but he didn't say, "Oh, be in my space, be in my space." He was very much a person that, from my reading of the Bible, is that he was very much a person of I'll come into your space and we'll talk it through, and I'll walk this journey with you, and then we'll walk it into and I just think that for me is the example of don't just sit there and watch what other people are doing. Go with them into their environments, and that is kind of what we want to do. And it's kind of the reason that we do the podcast, I think, a bit as well, is to actually say this stuff's not bad, but also we want to be the people that Jesus has called us to be in those environments. We don't just want to be sitting around and not and just being away from it all and being no, we can't, and saying to people that they're wrong for using these things.
One great comment I've heard recently is it's not that we're called to be Jesus.
Yeah.
We are called to be the best, most Jesus-like Becky.
Yeah.
Or most Jesus-like Andy in the world. And that includes your interests. That includes what you like.
Yeah.
And
also, I think that's true, isn't it? God created you the way that he did, and actually if one of your interests is gaming, God put that in you. I think that's okay to say that, passion for gaming, and definitely there are people that are in careers in it.
Yeah.
And Christians in careers in it.
Totally.
That's God's creative gift for them. I think that's more legitimately allowed to say that as well. I think, I wouldn't want to say that, that isn't from God, because actually, God created you, and God created you with that passion, and God created you with that ability to create these things. So.
Yeah. And I think it's very easy, if we're to look at kind of a lot of teaching, to ignore the creativity of God and the creativity that flows through the Bible. And I think that creativity lives within us as well, as human beings, as Christians, as whoever we want to see ourselves as. That we have a spark of creativity within all of us.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the big concerns that people have, we'll come back to this, one of the big concerns I have is that around time spent gaming.
Right.
Because obviously
that does come up, doesn't it?
It's a distraction from God.
Well, that is something that you've been told, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Right.
Pause. And he's
let's-
pausing because that's.
I mean, we can apply that to almost anything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna pick on golf. It's nothing personal. If you like going, if you like playing golf, this is nothing personal to you whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I do remember, kind of back in the day, I think it was a grandparent would like go and play golf on a Saturday,
Mm.
and you could argue that's like an entire day.
Yeah.
That's like a day gone from like family, kind of the house, all that sort of stuff, right?
Mm.
I'm fairly certain we can interchange the word golf with gaming
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And if we were to talk about gaming in that sort of way, there'd be a lot of kind of negative pushback
Mm.
in that actually, why are you spending all day gaming?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we don't really hear about other kind of interests being talked in that sort of way,
Yeah.
which I think is my point. And I'm like, well, it's about balance of time.
Mhm.
And that applies with everything in life. I mean, we talk about work-life balance. We can also talk about kind of how you spend your time doing each particular hobby. I mean, I know I'm very kind of good at being very interested in very particular hobbies for a very kind of short level of time, and then I'll kind of move on to the next one, and probably explains my inability to finish some games, to be perfectly honest. But that's a different matter. There could be also the other point that if gaming itself is taking up a large amount of time, then there could be something else going on there. And that could be, actually, I don't really know what else to do. Actually, this is my chance to kind of feel in control.
Mm-mm.
There could be some sort of search connection or something like that. But I think when we compare gaming to other hobbies as well, gaming, and there will be people who will argue with me on this,
Mm.
but gaming does have quite a low entry level cost-wise.
Yeah.
In that, you know, if you want to play Fortnite,
My phone.
well,
iPad.
you can't do it on iPhone right now.
Oh, that's
But
true.
Android,
iPad. You can't even do that, can
you can't
you?
do that.
Tablet.
But once you kind of paid out that kind of first payment, actually,
I would.
you keep playing Fortnite.
I would also argue that it's lower than that. Like there are free gaming apps.
Yeah.
You can play, and they can take up hours.
Yeah.
It's pretty low and like low entry. It's free.
Yeah.
Most people have smartphones. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by being down on gaming, are we being down on people who don't have the resource to explore other interests that people might be more interested in, that certain people might want them to be exploring?
Yeah.
Did I manage to say that without telling myself
Yeah.
up in notes? In
I
notes?
think so. Ultimately, we kind of just
Not.
go with like, I mean, I think the point of all this like podcasting stuff that we've been doing for the last almost 2 years now, like we kind of always said that like the podcast is to try and put a positive spin on gaming, and actually even from a Christian perspective, like we still believe it's a positive thing. And like it can be really beneficial to people's mental health. It can, you know, give people time to sort of process stuff. And yes, like there are games, kind of the gaming I don't know how you feel about, we should talk about first person shooters, because that's going to be the one that like everyone's like, why do you play that when you're like shooting people and things like that?
And again, I think first person shooters could get a bit of a bad press in that I know a lot of Christians who like watching Game of Thrones, for example, and other TV shows. I'm like, well, you know, I'm not gonna go around shouting at people for watching stuff I disagree with. First person shooters can be a stress relief.
Yeah.
Can also have a very good story behind it.
That's the doorbell.
And next week, I'll make sure to turn that volume down. But yeah, I think a lot of first-person shooters now have very good stories behind it. You've
Yeah.
got stress relief. You've also got the multiplayer element as well,
Yeah.
which brings us nicely back to the connection
Mm.
with other people.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it might be very Christian of me to say. I'm hoping I've managed to avoid that sort of language up until now. My advice for people when they play video games, or do any activity, is to check your heart. How's it impacting you? I know, right? But how is that impacting you? How's that impacting you as a person?
Yeah.
How's that impacting your relationship with others?
Yeah.
I mean, I know once upon a time I used to play a video game where you'd be crashing all the time, and I got to a point where I was like, oh, I just wonder if, we could have like this sort of crash on this junction and things like that. And maybe that's just a sign I might have played that video game a bit too much for that particular period of time. But that's not a first person shooter.
Yeah.
That's all. That's just, doing the same thing for too long. And I think first person shooters probably get bad press for that regard.
Yeah, and it's checking yourself against what you believe as well, isn't it? Like, I think that's what we're kind of getting at, is actually like, if you feel like a game that you're playing is affecting your relationship with God, maybe check it and see whether that's like you need to play that game, or whether you feel like that might be something that you need to step away from. And I think, and it's the same
Or
with,
maybe just play it less.
yeah. Or I think it's the same like how like we kind of equate God to like this, like, well, I think people kind of equate God to this like, higher figure, but it's the same thing that we would do with people. Like if your gaming habits are affecting your relationships with the people that you care about and you love, you would switch your behaviors. And I think the same is true of your relationship with God. So
Fantastic.
Yeah.
One last point.
Yeah.
I'm very aware we've probably gone on for quite a while.
We could talk about this all day.
There are some video games out there that kind of bring out more of a... Okay, so there are Christian video games, but there's also video games that people say, actually, I felt some sort of spiritual connection.
Yeah.
I felt some sort of moment of peace
whilst
playing that video game. And actually, those games could look different for different people.
Yeah.
Whilst the game I have in mind is the game called Journey, available on Sony PlayStation and mobile devices and PC.
Yeah.
That game could actually look very different to lots of different people. And I think that should be encouraged and sought after.
Yeah. And now it's time for Andy's Game of the Week. Andy, what is your game this week?
Okay, so in all honesty, confession time. The video game I've been playing a fair bit this week was Spider-Man Remastered on the PC.
Right.
Struggling a little bit with it on the laptop, kind of experimenting with a few different settings. But I've talked about that.
Yeah, I feel like we did that one.
And I feel like I've talked about that for a few weeks.
Okay.
So, Sea of Thieves.
Okay.
Imagine if I said Monkey Island to you.
I love Monkey Island.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of that.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's because Monkey Island is like my go-to pirating game.
Yeah.
It is basically a kind of action adventure game, kind of first person.
I was going to do my best Guy Brush Threepwood impersonation. Okay, you carry on.
And you're kind of exploring kind of
Nice.
the pirate seas is digging. I played it on stream last week.
Yeah.
I'm only about half an hour into it, maybe about 45 minutes. So it's all still very fresh for me. I should probably get back into it. I was worried that it was going to be lots of kind of tactical boat stuff, cannonballs, fighting, things like that. It's not that at all. There's more kind of go here, do that, talk to that person, get money.
Yep.
Do a bit of fighting, do some digging for treasure, all that sort of stuff. You're basically doing pirating stuff.
Nice.
There is a Monkey Island kind of section to the game. I was quite tempted to play, to be perfectly honest, but I was like, I've not played this before, so I think I should probably play at least the tutorial first.
Yeah.
Available on Xbox, yeah, on all the Xboxes, on Microsoft Windows, and I'm not sure if it's out on PlayStation 5 yet. But if it isn't,
was one of the games that was announced.
It's coming like
PlayStation 5
now.
Yeah.
So pre-orders would definitely be in.
Yeah. Right, well, that's all we have time for, and we've run on about this week, but we're hoping that you enjoyed our questions. That is all we have time for this week. You can find us on all our social medias at YMCA Exeter and at YMCA Exeter Games. Please do follow us on YouTube, like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.
Take care now.